Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to part 8 of my end of season waffle series. A series where I give a few of my thoughts on how each team and driver got on in 2022, and today I'm talking about Mercedes. Now, first of all, it is very weird to be talking about Mercedes at this stage of the series. After all, they were Constructors Champions for the previous 8 consecutive seasons, but they were a long way off that this year. I didn't really know what to expect coming into this new era of regulations, but one thing I was fairly sure of was that the Silver Arrows would, at the very least, be right in the mix. However, that wasn't really the case early on, as the team struggled predominantly with its porpoising issues and seemed a long way off the pace of the top 2. Despite that, though, they did score well early on and take advantage of their own reliability and other teams' lack of it to keep themselves somewhat within touching distance. I guess what I'm trying to say is, given the deficit in performance, Mercedes probably should have been further off, say, Ferrari than they actually were. Got to be said, as the season progressed, they did improve, and post-summer break, they were a serious threat some weekends to the dominant Red Bull, and I'd even go as far as to argue, did sometimes seem to have the upper hand over Ferrari as well, which is a very strong turnaround. To not be all that far off P2 in the standings, 39 points behind Ferrari, given where they were at the start of the season, that's actually pretty impressive. George Russell had, for the most part, a superb first season at Mercedes. I did not believe for 1 second he would be able to get all that close to his teammate in 2022, just because it's always tough moving to a team with an established driver. But when that established driver is Lewis Hamilton, I don't know, I just didn't expect him to do as well as he did. He was labelled Mr. Consistent, rightly so, in the first part of the year because he managed to finish inside the top 5 in each of the opening 9 races, and that included 3 podiums as well, so what a start. Sure, there were mistakes and incidents later in the season, looking at Silverstone and Cota in particular, and those are things that have got to be ironed out, but I'm sure they will be. And someone said to me the other day that his mid-season form was poor. However, whilst he was beaten by a resurgent Hamilton in that phase, following his Silverstone DNF, he picked up 2 4th-place finishes, 3 if we include the Austria Sprint, a 2nd place and 3 3rd-place finishes before his P14 in Singapore. So I'm not totally sure I agree with that at all. But anyway, on top of his consistency, there were 2 seriously high points for Russell as he won the sprint in Brazil and went on to take the race win on the Sunday, the first win of his career and Mercedes' only victory of the season. He also, almost forgot about it, grabbed a surprise pole position in Hungary. His averages for the year were good as well, with an average qualifying position of 6.5, race finish of 4.4, and points per race average of 11.9. His average race finish and points per race total, by the way, were both better than his teammate. As for his teammate, Lewis Hamilton, it wasn't the easiest of years for a driver we've come to expect to be challenging for titles year in and year out. The car wasn't great, of course it wasn't, and as he and the team tried to get to grips with it, Hamilton was experimenting with all sorts to help the team to move forward. It was a tough start to the season though, and he was well beaten by Russell early on. Once he got a car underneath him he was, at the very least, more comfortable with, his form did pick up with 5 consecutive podiums between Canada and Hungary. He also wasn't all that far off victory in the US, and in Brazil he was only 1.5 seconds off Russell in P1. His stats for the season aren't bad, all things considered. He ended up with an average qualifying position of 6.4, slightly better than Russell's, an average race finish of 4.8 and a points per race average of 10.6. He also picked up 9 podiums, 240 points, and ended up 6th in the standings. What I'm struggling with when it comes to Hamilton, though, is really to be all that glowing about his season. Whatever the reasons, he did lose out to his teammates in the standings and failed to pick up a single pole or win. That is not a dig at him, it's just he set the bar so high over the years that anything other than a title challenge feels poor. I'll tell you what it reminds me of, Michael Schumacher's 2005 season. He would have gone winless that year without the farce at Indianapolis, and he had a difficult car to deal with as well off the back of 5 straight titles. So when I look back, I see a lot of parallels between Schumi in 05 and Lewis in 22. And yeah, I know that Mercedes was a race-winning car because, after all, Russell did win in it. And of course, this was the first F1 season where Hamilton has failed to pick up a single pole or win, and it's a shame to see such a staggering record come to an end. Overall, then, not a great season for Mercedes, and certainly a lot worse than I expected it would be. I think both drivers, for the most part, did an exceptional job this year with the tools they had, and I'm not convinced they could have done much more given the work that was being done on and off the track to improve the W13 and the sheer dominance of Red Bull. I sort of touched on it briefly earlier, but the team's reliability was incredible, with Hamilton's retirement in Abu Dhabi the first mechanical DNF of the season for Mercedes. So reliability is absolutely on point. Get the overall car performance right and they could be very strong. They did just grab the 1 win though in 2022, and I must admit, if you told me that at the start of the year, I would never have believed you. Abu Dhabi did show, though, that despite the improvements made, there is still a long way back and a lot of work to do if they want to be challenging the top 2 next season. But if anyone can do it, I'm sure Mercedes can. After all, you do not win 8 consecutive Constructors titles by accident. Fascinated to see how they get on next season. That is it for the latest of my end of season waffles then, but you can let me know how you think Mercedes got on this year in the comment section down below. Now, I will be back soon with some more content as always, but in the meantime, if you did enjoy this one, then please do leave a like as it really does help the channel out, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos or streams. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.